So the first rule to styling a patterned shirt is to keep the foundation simple. What that means is the clothing around the shirt should in general be muted or solid in color. Solid colored trousers, classic shoes, and if you're going to bring patterns into a jacket, keep them muted. Rule number 2, if you're going to combine patterns, understand that scale matters. If you've got smaller patterns in the shirt, make sure that you've got larger patterns in the clothing next to it. The reason for this rule is if two pieces of clothing next to each other have similar sized patterns, it can create the optical illusion of movement. You don't want somebody looking at you and getting dizzy, right? The next rule is to try to stick with a color family. This is going to create a more cohesive look. So if you've got a blue check shirt, maybe match it with a pair of blue trousers. The next rule, gents, is that less is more, and don't be afraid to break up patterns with a solid. So if you have a patterned shirt with a patterned jacket, maybe bring in a solid necktie. The next rule is to understand pattern hierarchy. And by that, I mean that some patterns are going to be louder, some are going to be more muted. So traditionally, stripes, we're going to see herringbones. Those are going to be more classy. You can wear them in business clothing. Other ones like florals, dots, these are going to be much more attention grabbing. The next rule, pay attention to pattern context. We were talking about how certain patterns are going to draw attention, are going to be more casual. They're also not going to be appropriate in all situations. Let's say you love florals. They're great for maybe a summer wedding, but they're not great for a conservative business environment. That being said, I love a bold pattern shirt, but the next rule here is to balance those bold patterns with neutrals. Gents, neutral colors like beige, gray, tan, navy, these are perfect for actually pairing with those bold patterns. Jackets, trousers, and shoes in neutral colors allow the shirt to shine. In today's video, gentlemen, we're talking about how to correctly style a patterned shirt. We're going to go through all the different patterns out there when it comes to shirts and how to wear them and look amazing. Now, today's video, gents, is sponsored by my friends over at Collars & Co. If you're like most guys, you are tired of hot, uncomfortable, sweaty dress shirts that just never feel comfortable and are difficult to layer. Collars & Co., they understood this, and they took the polo shirt, which never really had a strong collar and didn't look that great whenever you layered it. They put a dress shirt collar on a polo shirt, and they made it look amazing. They made it functional with the right fabric, with the stretch, with the breathability, and all of a sudden you got the perfect shirt that you can dress up, you can dress down, you can wear in almost any situation. Here's a picture of me at my daughter's baptism wearing this shirt right here with a great looking sports jacket. It was a hot day. It's a 4-way stretch. It wicks away moisture, and it's perfect for traveling. So if you throw this in your bag, you pull it out, there are no wrinkles. It's ready to go. And if you love entrepreneurial stories, you're going to love Collars & Co. They were on Shark Tank. Mark Cuban saw the potential. He loved the shirts, so he's wearing them all over the place, but he also invested $1 million into this business. Now, they started off with just solids, but you go over to their website, guys, they now have tons and tons of different patterns. Well, let's talk about all the different collar styles they've got. They've got the English spread collar, a semi-spread collar, Oxford button-down collar, and cutaway collars. If you haven't been over to the website lately, get over there, check out all their new items. They've even got these new CEO chino pants made from a very comfortable stretch cotton. And they've got their new Quattro Flex dress shirt. So if you want the buttons to go all the way down, they've got you covered. Now, of course, gents, down in the description of today's video, I've got the best deal you're going to find on the web. I've also got a code for you, RMRS, user to lose it. That deal is not going to be around forever. Use that link, use the code, get the best deal on the web over at Collars & Co. Now, some of you guys may be thinking, why go with patterned shirts? Why not change it up? Why not go with patterned jackets? Why not go with patterned trousers? Now, of course, you can do whatever you want, but there's a couple reasons why I think a man, if he's going to start bringing pattern and color, should start with the shirt. First up, money. When it comes to jackets, when it comes to trousers, these items usually cost more. So I like for those canvases to really be solid, go with those muted colors as I talked about in the rules. The shirts you can change up, and usually they're not going to be as expensive. Now, the second reason, and this is one I don't think a lot of people think about, is drawing the eyes to the face. So if you wear bright colored or patterned trousers, where are you going to draw the eyes? Down to your lower part of the body. Not necessarily a bad thing, but if you want people to be looking at your face, if you want people to look in at your chest area, usually for a man, one of the more, center point basically, you want to have the patterns, you want to have the color right here. And this doubly applies to shirts with a collar, especially with a contrasting color. Why? You go with a light color, you go with a pattern. All of a sudden, it's going to be framing the face and again, bringing the eyes up, getting people to look where you probably want them to, right? Eye to eye. Now, the first pattern is one most people don't even think about as a pattern, but it is, and that is solid. Now, solid, again, is going to be where you want to keep most of your clothing. Now, of course, solids do not have to be boring. There are tons of colors, especially brighter ones out there that can really liven up the wardrobe. But in general, look to neutrals. That's where you want to start. That's where your base is going to be. But now getting to a proper pattern, let's talk about stripes. So stripes are one of the oldest patterns in menswear, hence they're going to be very well accepted. In the last 100 years, striped shirts, even stripes in suits, have been accepted as a classic, especially in business wear. Now, a classic striped shirt is going to have a white base, and then up and down, we're going to be able to see the patterns. Now, there are different types of stripes out there. You're going to see wider ones like Bengal stripes. You're going to see thinner ones like pinstripes. Now, the general rule is the thicker stripes are going to be more casual, the thinner stripes more formal, but the color of the stripe will also have a big effect here. In a nutshell, stripes are going to be some of the most formal patterns that you can bring into clothing, and they work in a lot of business wear, so they're one of the easiest ones for most guys to start bringing into their wardrobe. That being said, nowadays you're going to see a lot of darker shirts with white stripes on them. I will say that all of these shirts in general are going to be more casual. Again, nothing wrong with them. I think that especially if you're going to wear them in the right environment, and that's key, but these are going to be a little bit harder to pull off. I wouldn't start adding these to your wardrobe till you're already comfortable with stripes in general. And that takes me to the point of actually how to start bringing patterns into your wardrobe, especially with shirts. The answer is to practice, and you're going to build up confidence as you slowly bring things in. What you don't want to go out there and do is buy a whole bunch of pattern shirts and not wear any of them. I would suggest starting off with a very muted pattern versus going into something that really draws attention. That being said, if you do start off with an attention-grabbing pattern, maybe consider layering it, covering it up, wearing it, with a jacket so it's fully covered so it's not grabbing a whole lot of attention. In any case, once you start getting reps, once you start getting compliments, all of a sudden you're going to feel much more comfortable wearing those patterns, especially in different situations, and therefore it's just going to be easier to grab the shirt when you know it looks good on you. Now, the next pattern I want to talk about is one of my favorites, and this is herringbone. So we see this in suits, we see it in a wide variety of different clothing, and it's got a really interesting history. In fact, of all the patterns we're going to talk about, this one is perhaps the oldest. It goes back to the early Roman Empire. And yes, since then it has been used in textiles, but it started off as a pattern that we saw in Roman roads. And the name herringbone, as you can probably imagine, came from the herring fish, whose bones, basically the pattern, reminded people of. Now, what makes herringbone such a great fabric to be able to bring into your shirts, into other items in your wardrobe, is that from a distance it looks like a solid. So you're able to wear it in a lot of situations, but when people get up close, they're able to see that herringbone pattern. Really depends on the contrast between the fabrics. I've seen ones that are incredibly muted, other ones that are going to have a higher contrast. I would say start with the muted because they're so flexible and they just get this feeling of a little bit of texture, and it's a really, I think, sleek, just really nice, and you can dress it up, you can dress them down, but herringbone, absolutely beautiful pattern. The next shirt pattern I want to talk about is gingham. Now, this pattern originated in Malaysia, but it was made popular by the Dutch and English colonizers, then spread it around the world. Now, the original gingham pattern was actually a type of stripe, but now it's become a very balanced check. And because of the color combinations that often come with it, the red with the white or the blue with the white, it's become associated with summer, and the type of fabrics it's often sewn into are going to be lightweight in nature. Next up, we've got plaids, also known as tartans. Now, plaids historically have Celtic roots, with each pattern traditionally representing a particular Scottish clan. Nowadays, though, the patterns have gone global, so you're not going to see that association much anymore, and you can wear those shirts and just look good. Now, checks are the simpler cousins of plaid. Now, plaids often have multiple colors, and the widths between the stripes are often going to change up. Checks, on the other hand, are going to be uniform, forming perfect squares in the patterns. Two variants that are very popular are going to be window pane and graph check. The only difference being usually the size of the square that's formed on the shirt. And remember, larger patterns in general are going to be more casual. Now, if at this point your head is spinning with all the different patterns and you're wondering, how in the world do I even put this all together? Again, guys, go back to those rules I talked about at the beginning. Keep it simple and make sure the patterns aren't the same size, aren't too similar. You don't want to wear a jacket and a shirt with very similar colors and patterns. That being said, if you can find one color in the shirt, like this combination I put together, I knew that the blue works very well with brown. If I look on the color wheel, these are going to be like right across from each other. The orange is basically brown and you got the blue over there. I knew that this type of contrast and the deepness and the richness would just simply work. So that's what I tried to go with. It had nothing to do with the white. White's neutral, I can match it with anything. Oftentimes in a pattern shirt, you're going to get a variety of different colors. Just choose one color and try to make sure it works with the item next to it. And that's why it's really easy with trousers. If you're big into blue jeans or if you're into chinos, again, we've got neutral palettes there. They're going to work with almost anything, and that's where you can let the shirt shine. So now let's talk about a pattern that a lot of you guys probably have never heard of, and that is called Tattersall. Now, Tattersall is a classic British pattern that's characterized by regularly spaced stripes in a check pattern. Now, the pattern itself gets its name from Tattersall's horse market in London. The story goes that apparently there were horse blankets with this pattern, and some guy with a little bit of ingenuity said, you know what, I love this. I want to get this into some of my shirt fabrics. And that's what he had the mills do that. And then the tailors, made him some shirts. Now, this next pattern originated from Scotland in the 1800s. It's a duo pattern characterized by broken checks or abstract 4-point shapes. It's sometimes found in black and white, but can come in a variety of different colors and combinations. And some people think this imagery imitates a dog's tooth. Can you guess which one it is? Gentlemen, I'm talking about houndstooth. And I have to say, for jackets, it is well known. For shirts, lesser so. But I think that's, too bad. If you ever see a houndstooth shirt, consider getting it. I think it's a very muted pattern, especially if you go something in a solid color, maybe with a two-tone. But I think they're absolutely beautiful and really an easy way to bring a textured look into your outfit. And of course, gents, like most of the patterns I'm talking about in today's video, these are timeless classic patterns that have been around for decades, if not hundreds of years. So what's great about this is you can bring them into your wardrobe and you don't have to worry about them going out of fashion. Now let's talk about some lesser known patterns. So next up, striped grids. You're going to see this with 2 stripes. You're going to see 3 stripes, very similar to a check, except you're going to have those extra stripes going through. And these are going to be more casual than a regular check, especially if you can find one that uses a variety of different colors. Next up, you got vantage. This is often associated with vintage patterns, and then we're talking, you go back to Victorian times, you can go back to the 1970s. So we're going to see this with geos. We're oftentimes going to see a small repeating pattern again and again. Now with these small repeating patterns, again, depending on the contrast, it can be very muted and stylish, and I think they're a great way to add a bit of just a modern, unique look to a wardrobe, or you can go with something higher contrast. And it's funny, so many different shirt makers will come out with their own pattern, their own item that they're repeating again and again. I think they're fun, but again, they are in general going to be more casual. So if you're going to bring them in your wardrobe, look to start with something a bit more muted. Next up, let's talk about diamonds. Let's talk about spheres. Let's talk about dots. So diamonds and spheres, these are going to be a little, not too common, but you'll see them out there and they're going to be more casual. Dots, on the other hand, this is a classic pattern that's been around for hundreds of years. You see it in a lot of accessories. You don't see it as often in shirts. And the interesting thing about dots is even a high contrast dot actually is something you can still dress up, because this is an accepted pattern in menswear that has been used in bow ties, neckties, pocket squares for hundreds of years, and therefore, I think it almost gets a pass versus those other shapes. Next up, let's talk about some ultra casual patterns. First up, we've got florals, and men have been adorning themselves with flowers since the medieval ages. I mean, there's tons of drawings and documents of florals being woven into clothing, but as a pattern on shirtwear, they actually came out of their own in the 1960s, 1970s, and a lot of people still associate them with being, guys that were rock stars. Nothing wrong with that if that's the look you're going for, but I do think a good looking floral, especially keeping it muted, if you bring in the color, then understand, this is going to be something that's going to draw the eyes. Not a bad thing, especially when you're layering, or maybe you throw simply, like a blazer jacket on top, and I think that combination looks good. And of course, let's talk about paisleys, made popular by Paisley, Scotland, but the history on the paisley is actually Persian and Indian. So both of these countries came out with very unique patterns. Now, the key distinctive feature of a paisley is an ordinate pattern, often featuring teardrop-shaped motifs with a curved upper end. Beautiful, often seen in accessories, but understand any shirt in this pattern is going to be casual. Now, gents, an important point that I haven't covered yet is how fabrics affect perception. So understand that if you are a larger fellow, And if you are going to wear patterns that are going to go horizontally across, understand it's going to make you look wider. So that's why most patterns, by the way, are going to be vertical, the stripes. They actually can slim up the silhouette. They're never going to make you look thin, but they are going to make you look a little bit more put together, and they're going to bring the eyes up and down and not have people focused in on your midsection. That being said, if you are a bigger guy, be careful of patterns that are going to draw too much attention. You want to make sure to layer maybe with dark solids, bring the pattern so they draw attention right here to the midsection. But if you're a skinnier guy, nothing wrong with actually going with a louder, with a stronger pattern shirt. It can actually give you a bit of, just a bit of depth, a bit of weight. All right, so you're covered when it comes to shirts, but what about trousers? What about jeans? How to match a polo with jeans? Well, guys, I got you covered in this video right here, how to look good matching a polo with jeans. If you enjoyed today's video and you want to know how to wear that combination correctly, I got you covered, boom, in this video right here. Check it out. You'll enjoy it. Yes, I know you will. Click it. Come on, go check it out.